everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different, but something that I hope I will be able to bring more of, and that is create a sim, or just Sims 4 tutorials in general. I wanted today to do a much requested split die tutorial. I did a few of these a while ago, like that one there, and then that one there. That was the first one that I actually did, and today I figured I came across this hairstyle that I really like, and I figured why not make a tutorial for it since how so many people have actually asked for one. You really need to make sure that it's either a Sims 4 base game mesh or one that you have made yourself, or one that you get permission from the creator for, because you will have to edit the mesh in 99.9% of cases, because so say the right side of the head is going to be brown, it can't have the same mapping as the left side of the head, because you obviously can't have two colors if they're sharing the same spot on the UV map. This is going to assume that you have basic, at least, some kind of knowledge using Sims 4 Studio and Blender. If there's anything that is confusing, feel free to ask. If you want a series that starts off with very beginner tutorials for Sims 4 Studio and Blender, then feel free, and then that's something that I'll consider doing in the future. So yeah, this is the hair that I want to make. I've got a palette. I'm just going to exit out of the game for a bit here. I've got a palette that I made, but I haven't made an action for that yet. I'm going to do it while I'm recording this video, so there will be one in the description box if you want to use the palette that I've got, or I will be explaining it as I go to colour your own colours or whatever. But before we get into that, texturing is going to come in a little bit. We're going to just minimize out of all that. Okay, so Sims 4 Studio, you're going to make sure that you have the hair that you want in your Sims 4 Studio mods folder, and that will mean that you can choose it from here. It's going to be easier. I like to do this blonde one just because it's very light and it's going to be easier, because if you start with the dark color, you're not going to have those light values to work. I prefer to do this one, but I mean any of the lighter colors will also work. So we are going to just export that mesh. I was kind of messing around with it a little bit earlier just to make sure it was going to work. Some of the creators, their meshes aren't meant or designed to be edited by anyone else. So some creators, including me, I'm guilty of it, don't exactly care too much about their UV mapping, and so some of them are very messy and they're going to be harder to work with than others. Especially EA meshes. Sometimes the way that they mesh stuff is really weird. Alrighty, so this is the hair that we've got. I'm just gonna minimize. Alrighty, so that's the one that we need. So if we go into edit mode here, then this is the UV map that we have to work with. Just go into diffuse map, and there's our texture. We need to figure out what is mapped to where. So I'm just going to select that whole half of the head. It does seem to be all over the place. Some of the left is on the right, some of the right is on the left. Can better demonstrate that. Just selecting that, hide that temporarily, and you can see that that one little bit there had sections on both sides of the head. Although it is pretty clean, I think all we really have to do for this one are the bangs. The texture of this will change a little bit as things are moved around. Basically we want to separate the mesh that's on the left side from the mesh that's on the right side. As I said, this one seems to be pretty, like, it seems to be done already, but I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to put it in time lapse so you can still see what I'm doing, but so that way I'm not awkwardly talking for the whole time. Okay, so now I'm just going to save that. So we have the left side completely separated from the right side, and I can tell that just by, because I know that I've put all of the left on to this side here, basically the way that it was facing, because she's facing towards me. I put all of the right side here on the actual right side, and then I can press H, and then that shows that that was basically all of that side, and then none of this side was hidden when I press that. So that's good, that's what we want. With this little bit down here, and you'll see it across the front as well, this is basically where, I don't think you can really call them baby hairs, but basically you can see that little jaggedy bit of hair around the base. You'll see that around pretty much the entire circumference of where the hair sits. Don't worry about that, because that maps to here, and that's just as simple as cutting it down the middle, coloring one side one color, coloring the other side the other color. That's our whole mesh mapping, UV mapping done, and we can move on to texturing. So this mesh, I'm just going to put back in. Okay, I'm just going to export the texture, and then do it like this. Yeah, you should be able to use like Paint, MS Paint, whatever it's called. I've always used Photoshop, that's just what I know. Stick with what you know, don't use Photoshop just because I'm using Photoshop. As long as it can support layers and everything like that, then it should be fine. Or you can figure out a way to do it differently, or yeah. Alrighty, so let's just open that again. Alrighty, that's messed up again. Alrighty, our texture, and that's our palette thing. I'll just keep it there. And an easy way to do this would be, there's a little UV button down here. I actually didn't know this until like very recently. I would always print screen, take a screenshot of the UV thing, and then copy that into Photoshop. But if you go UVs, export UV layout, I'm just going to name that UV. And then if I go File, Place Embedded, UV, and not on that one. This one. File, Place Embedded, UV, Enter, and then there is our UV map exactly how it needs to be. And now is a simple case of just, I'm going to tone that down a bit, setting up this texture to color later, I guess. I use adjustment layers. That way it doesn't actually do anything to the texture itself, it just kind of puts a layer on top of it. So if I go, what am I looking for? Hue saturation, and I bring saturation down, and then we can just turn that off and edit the adjustment layer rather than the actual texture layer. That way it's always intact, we can go back to it if we need to. And then I'll just use levels, bring that up a bit, and bring that down for contrast. It's probably a little bit too bright. Alrighty, that should be pretty good. I am just going to get rid of the bits of the texture that we don't need. I'm going to just separate the left side from the right side. That was left. I keep getting them mixed up, but as long as it's either left or right, it doesn't really matter. And then that side was the top one over here, wasn't it? And then it's going to be this whole half here. And then I'm just going to cut that, paste it on a new layer. It's all gone wonky here, so I'm going to put it back. Alright, and nothing ever happened. Just going to name that right, and this one here left, so that way we can keep track of it. So I'm just going to add a new one. I like to use linear burn layers. I'm just going to hide that for now. Actually, this isn't going to work how I thought it was going to be. I'm going to take a minute to fix this up, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've basically just merged down the adjustment layers one onto each side. So we've got the right side or left side or right side, can't remember. Right, and then, no, don't do that. and left. Alrighty, okay, and like I said, I like to use linear burn layers, and then I'm clicking Alt between the two layers, and that's going to create a clipping layer. Basically, whatever we paint onto layer 1 is only going to be onto the layer beneath it, which is right. You shouldn't notice anything that's different. I just went ahead and set it up so that way all you will have to do if you're using the action is to separate the right and the left sides, and then it's going to add the adjustment layers and everything else itself, and yeah, pretty much it'll go from there, but I'll have to do it manually to record the action. So we have, just stop that for a second, we have this split endless palette. Basically is going to do a very light blonde with all of these pastel colors here, and then is going to do like a blue black with all of those colors, and then it's going to do a blonde with, well, a darker blonde with all of those colors, a brown with all of those colors, and then it's got a few different ones. And done. So I did all the colors that were in this palette here. Like I said, I updated it, so there's actually, instead of the original 48 swatches, there's also another 2 extra, so there's 50 altogether. And now the fun of putting them all back into Sims 4 Studio. Import, yep, they're all there. Cool. Ah, I forgot to import the mesh again, didn't I? I did. Alrighty, and there we go. Now don't worry about these little glitches or whatever here. That's just Sims 4 Studio being Sims 4 Studio. And there we go. Save, and then they're copied. Yep, alrighty. Moment of truth now. And we've got to find it somewhere over the rainbow. There we go. See, I told you it would show up alright in game. And then there is all of our swatches. Actually, that's a little bit odd, but we can easily just go back and fix up the UV if anything is off. These two here have to be one of my favorite color combinations. They're just gorgeous. We're going to fix up that little bit there. So back in Blender, it was this bit here. Ah, that's why, because it's 2 separate pieces. So there's going to be a little bit of a gap, but that's easily solved. We just gotta move that up a little and then move that little piece so that way it's at the end of that bit there. Hopefully it's not too dark in the center. It shouldn't be. It should be fine. Save that and re-import it. Alrighty. And then we import that back in. Loading, loading, loading. It's got a lot of swatches to update. There we go. That took care of that. Alrighty. And now I'm just going to load up the game, and then we also have to do the hat chops. Not done yet. There we go. That looks a lot better. Oh, hair doesn't have thumbnails for the different colors. Okay, I completely forgot about that. Never mind then. Well, that one's done, but I think I'll do a custom thumbnail instead. So I've just done the thumbnail, and I noticed, if this would stop moving, there's a little bit of purple in there. Well, a little bit of whatever color it's gonna be that I missed on the mesh, which is easy to fix because it's only editing the mesh, not every single swatch that I've already done. So I'm just gonna exit out of that again and go back to the mesh and then figure out where it is that I've missed this thing. Ah, I see it. There. And it's going to be a bitch to select, apparently. There we go. Alrighty. Too easy. So, we've got to do the hat chops now. Because otherwise you're going to have the separate streaks like there was in the very beginning of the mesh. Go to diffuse. So I'm gonna try doing this a different way. This seems to be meshed differently to the original LED one, so it shouldn't really matter too much. I'm just going to make sure the right side isn't sharing any space that the left side is, and making sure. I'm just going to change this picture image, replace image with one of our textures, that way we can actually see. So I'm just gonna replace with the first one, I guess, and then that way we can see where all of the parts are meshing to. And my chair is really loud, I'm sorry. Alrighty, so that seems pretty good as it is, I guess. This should be all for the blonde side, yes, okay. So I'm just gonna I'm not worrying too much about it, I'm just gonna move it all to the right side. And now we just need to do that for the other hat chop as well. That's the hat chops done. Just gonna save that and then re-import it into Studio. I did my little thumbnail too. That's what I decided to go with. This one. Okay, so for some reason it's not changing the mesh when I import it. Because I imported all the others, LED2 and LED3. So it may just be a studio glitch, it may just be showing up wrong. I guess we're just going to have to test it in game and see. In game, moment of truth, it's nighttime and I'm sorry about that. Is it going to change? It doesn't look like it, so it was probably, get out of the way tree, just a studio glitch by the looks of things. This is actually really unflattering way to finish. There we go, that looks much better. Alrighty, so I did say that I was going to do a more complicated mesh because this one was pretty much already set up, just had to tweak a few things. I will probably do that. In fact, I will do that in a separate video because I know that this one's probably going to be very long, and this is the basics anyway. You just basically got to remember that one half of the head, because if you're doing two different colors, one half cannot share the same UV space as the other. If you do decide to do this, just be sure if you're going to release it publicly for download, get the original mesh creator's permission, because you're editing their mesh and you're going to have to distribute it, and that's against a lot of creators' terms of service. So just be sure to get that, so that way you don't get in trouble and I don't get in trouble. I have already warned you, so that cannot fall back on me. Alrighty, so thank you guys. I'm gonna get rid of that because that's ugly. That's just a random name that I gave her too, because I don't have a name for her. I guess I can call her Kayla, but I don't know. She's just unnamed for now. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you do have any questions, just be sure to ask. If you have any suggestions of any other tutorial that you want to see, feel free to suggest it, because I'm actually really enjoying doing tutorials. So thanks guys. So I realized that I didn't exactly explain how to use the action in a non-roundabout all over the place way. So you're first going to need to actually install the action. Now I've already got it, but you can click, okay. You can go into Window and then Actions. I've just got it pinned here just because I use them a lot. And then you're going to go to this little icon up here, and then you're going to go down to Load Actions. And then you're going to navigate to where you saved it, and then click on that. I'm not going to because I already have it on there, and then it's going to install it. Click Load. And then you're going to, it's designed to work with this color hair here, the Platinum Blonde I think it's called, I think. Anyway, so I'm just going to export that into there, load it into Photoshop, and then there was, I keep looking for append because that's the way that Blender use words it. The UV. Alrighty. And then I'm just going to quickly separate the left from the right side. And then just simply, I just press Control X to cut, Control V to paste, and then move it back into position. And because that will automatically put that selection on a new layer. And then name that's the right side, and then this one here is the left side, because that's as if it was facing you. You'll know whichever way you've done your UV mapping. And then I'm just going to get rid of that UV. All you need is it named right and left, exactly like that. Doesn't matter the order, you can have whatever you want. And then just open up the folder that has the action, hit play, and it's going to move very, very fast. But basically, it's just created, you can't, because it doesn't update the preview, there's no point, it's going to use a lot of resources that it doesn't need. It's basically added the adjustment layers that we did to make it nice and bright and white. It's added them to both the left and right sides, and then you can see it flicking between the two layers there for the different colors. See, it's made it bright white, and then it's just gone through and colored them for all of the 50 swatches. And then before you do that, actually, sorry, again, all over the place, before you do that, you're going to want to just make a new folder on your the action again. Anyway, that's the last. I think I've said thank you and goodbye like 3 times now, but thank you so much for watching, and if you do have any other suggestions for tutorials or whatever, leave them and then I will look into them. Thanks, bye!